Today in the news on Vanguard Live, I am Precious Chukudi. We begin with the front pages of the papers this morning, starting off with Vanguard newspaper. Vanguard is leading with Blackout as workers shut down national grid. The writer says striking workers lay siege to power ministry. Ministers locked out. Labour ministers weighed in. Strike suspended for 2 weeks. We have why we can't generate 5,000 megawatts of power. That's coming from federal government. You can see that story on page 9. On page 6, Buhari IBB Ogun Governor mourns as Chiduru Onobule dies at 83. On page 28, security threats. Jigawa government closes school abruptly. On page 8, still PDP crisis. Pressure mounts on IU to step aside as old video surfaces. On page 7, Kaduna locals lynch female kidnapper. On page 6, blasphemy. Appeal court orders retrial of Kano singer sentenced to death. On page 28, Babangida at 81, your leadership legacy enduring. Northern Governors PDP, that's what you're saying. Stories about $418 million Paris Club payment. Malami's claim fraudulent self-serving, that's coming from the governors. A port tax force drives up export by 363% in H1 22. And also, first coronation anniversary. Ojiame Atuase III, a king in the eyes of his people. You can see that on page 21. All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with governors hit Malami on $480 million Paris Club payment. The writer says AGF's action self-serving. We will pursue matter to Supreme Court. We can also see 2023 Tinubu visits Obasanjo amidst pomp. The writer says huge crowd at ex-president's library complex stadium. APC candidate scores Abiodun high. Stories above. Federal government, why we failed to meet 5,000 megawatt target. Electricity workers suspend strike. PDP taken over by devil, says Bode George. Bawa, EFCC secured 4,430 convictions in 19 months. Lagos Blue Rail line to begin test run December. And we have 3 court suspects held. And lastly, in front page of the Nation, exposed kidnappers get 50,000 naira. That's what Akeredolu is telling residents. All right, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is dealing with nationwide blackout. 3 billion naira lost to TCN strike as grid crashes. The writer says electricity workers suspend industrial action. Discos issues notice on darkness. Urge communities to safeguard installations. Why we can generate 5,000 megawatts of power by minister. Page 3, restructuring won't lead to secession, says Okotie. On page 4, EFCC raid on BDC operators behind Naira rise against dollar, says Bawa. Antimicrobial agents for treating drug-resistant TB enters clinical trials. You can see that on page 4. Rivers women protest against destruction of farmlands by suspected herders. And the stories below on page 6. 8 years after leading Buhari to Obasanjo, Tinubu meets ex-president for own ambition. Lagos Blue Rail line nears completion as engineers launch a final track beam. You can see that on page 8. Let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with PDP crisis. Peace threatened. Wike, Atiku's men disagree over IU. The writer says that IU must go for talks to proceed. That's coming from the governor's men. IU won't resign, says PDP team. It seems devil has entered PDP, says George, as negotiators disagree over venue. Go to your villages. Elections are not won in Abuja hotels. Wike tells candidates. APC supporters hold carnival as Tinubu visits Obasanjo. Great grandma collapses, dies while climbing Lagos Bridge. You can see that story on pages 4 and 5. ASU begins consultation on next move. Northern youth protest insecurity in Abuja. Stories above. How transnational firms swindled Nigerians, orders over $3 million. You can see that on page 29. Pages 19 and 20. Electricity workers call off strike. Businesses count losses. Gencos, Discos, all banks. 836 billion naira amid crisis. And also we have women not created to be irrelevant. That's coming from the first female Methodist bishop. And lastly, in the front page of the Punch newspaper, $418 million refund. Governors knock Malami over commission. And that's all we can take on the front pages of the papers. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you're just joining, still today in the news on Vanguard Life, I am Precious Chukudi, and joining me to talk about the story on the front page as the blackout as workers shut down National Grid is Udeme Akpan. He's our correspondent this morning. Good morning, Udeme. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Yes. All right, please, let's talk about the striking workers of the Transmission Company of Nigeria. Can you give us more reports on how the strike started and why exactly they're striking?
Well, the strike was highly predictable because of developments in the sector for a very long time. The union has been asking for many things, three basic things, and then there was no immediate response on the part of management. I mean, the management of Transmission Company of Nigeria. So it was highly predictable, and we were not really surprised when the workers went on the strike, shutting down the whole country.
All right. The strike was actually suspended yesterday, and that was after the minister had promised that issues raised by the workers will be addressed. Do you think that these issues will be resolved?
Like I said, there were three basic issues. One was the mandatory order that the acting managers of DCM must appear for physical interview before promotion. The second was the stigmatization of staff from the office of the head of service of the Federation. And then the third one was the refusal of the DCM management to fund the entitlements of the staff of the defunct power holding company of Nigeria. So these were very, very critical for the union. So then with the promise of the government, it is expected that the TCM management will do what they're supposed to do, even more serious, so that this will not happen again. It was really very painful to the whole nation yesterday. When the whole country was shut down, there was no light anywhere in the country. It was very painful. Most people suffered, and even those who had different businesses, including households and companies, they had to find a way to generate their independent power at very higher cost, considering the high cost of petrol and even diesel at this time.
All right, thank you so much, Udeme, for your reports. Thank you so much. All right, we're moving over ahead to talk to our other correspondent who's going to be giving us a rundown of what's happening with the PDP crisis. Stay with us, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Joining us is John Alechenu. He's going to be talking about the PDP crisis. John, you're welcome. Thank you for joining me this morning. An old video of Dr. Ayu obviously, resurfaced where he granted an interview pledging to step aside should a northerner emerge as the presidential candidate for PDP. Can you tell us more on that report?
It became an issue of interest with the current debate over whether or not to stay or go. But then opponents were able to get hold of the video, which they circulated amongst themselves within the party, but which we got hold of by going to the to YouTube. Actually, an interview he granted Arise Television around October 30th, thereabout, before the PDP convention that brought him into office. Now, in the video, he was saying that because they asked him if he got the seat, if he became national chairman, what would happen if the northern candidate became the northerner becomes the candidate of the party. Since the PDP has this arrangement that you have certain offices are shared between north and south, you know. So he said in that video, which I watched, that if a northern candidate emerges and the party, that was the caveat, and the party decides that he should step down, he will do so immediately. But that was not the issue in the contest. That it was open to everybody to contest and all of that. But now it appears as if he had a change of heart, or his supporters feel, that dynamic has changed. Now the issue is them winning an election. What has brought the debate really is, apart from the various interests of Wiki and his supporters who felt they were fairly treated, there's this question of morality. Let's put it this way. Those who are pushing for him to remain, those on Atiku's side, are like, look, it is too late in the day to start effecting changes at the party, at the top echelon of the party, because you have 6 to 7 months to election. And if you effect the change at this time, it could unsettle some of the arrangements they've made or are already making. But those who want him out, apart from their own personal grievances that he wasn't transparent in handling the primaries, is that look, right now the top positions in the party have been held by northerners. The party candidate is a northerner, chairman of the DOT is a northerner, the national chairman is a northerner, the chairman of the governors forum is a northerner, and all whatnot. So that it will be difficult for them to go and sell the party down south, because the opponent, in the APC or any other party that wants to eat at the votes of the PDP, will be telling their people that, look, this is a northern party. That's not the plan. You know, in Nigeria, some of these sentiments play out, apart from religion and ethnicity. Politicians will throw in anything into the mix to get an edge. So that's where we are now.
Some persons in the party have been, hinging on the fact that Dr. Ayi's resignation would be an instrument of peace for the party. Do you think so?
Well, with the way things are with the politics of the PDP, if Ayi is kicked out, I think he doesn't resign on his own, and somehow they're able to do him a secondus. The secondus refused to step down, refused to resign, but we found a way of getting him out anyway. If that should happen, of course, you have a fresh set of accused persons. So how do you deal with that? There's a catch-22 situations. Like, there is no way people who are saying, look, let Ayi stay on, are saying, look, Wike have had a hand in the leadership crisis of the PDP over the last couple of years. And it's understandably so, because when the party lost the president in 2015, other leaders went away. They literally abandoned the party. But some who remained sabotaged the party. But Wike remained and was able to pull resources together and held the party in one place before those people came back. So they are like saying, look, he should be given some level of recognition. Doesn't have anything, at least he should have a say in how the party is run. So people are like, look, we can have had, yes, we're giving him, he was responsible for the, before the installation of secondus, he and his friend Fellowship were the ones who brought in Madu Sharif, who was not even a party member at the time. They co-opted him and made him national chairman. But they saw where the thing was going, and it took the Supreme Court pronouncement to resolve that crisis. So the same Wike who brought in secondus as replacement for the crisis that Sheriff brought, because they had an interim, McCarthy was the interim national chairman. He brought in the country. He fell out with the country. And he also, with his friend, Governor of Benue, they brought in Ayu. So, for him now to say he wants Ayu out, it's like, some party members are saying, look, come, we're endorsing this man too much. How can one man be telling us, look, take this man, I don't like him again, remove him, bring another person? You don't build parties like that. It shouldn't be built around a personality. So it's for some, and for the candidate of the party, Blackout, he has had a long-standing relationship with I politically, right from their days in the SDP and all of that. And at the time, they moved out of PDP together, to the then HCN, ATN. They've had, a good relationship over the years. So he is like, look, it's time to, he would want to prove, or he would want to prove to everyone that he's his own man. That people, he's a candidate now, people should not dictate to him, so to speak. He should be able to make the right choices and stick by them. And should be able to at least be loyal to his friends. So he's put in that very dire situation. And those who are not too happy with Ayu or have their own access to grind are lashing in on it. They look, Wike should have his way, because that too will serve their own purpose for whatever is worth. It's really a dicey one here.
All right, but earlier in this week, some persons were already asking that the national chairmanship position of the party should be given to Governor Wike. What do you think about? Do you think that would solve the whole crisis going on in the party?
No, it's my personal opinion now. Having watched the policy of PDP for a couple of years, it will create its own problem. You might not like the politics, the kind of politics it plays might be very effective in rivers and all of that, but at the national stage, you have bigger fishes to fry. The interests are huge, the egos are extraordinary, and I would look forward to seeing it develop the kind of diplomacy required to massage these egos across religions, across ethnic, across several lines. PDP, if you look at even the PDP Board of Trustees, for example, I mean, these are people who are former presidents, vice presidents, former Senate presidents. I mean, you have no less than 3 or 4 former presidents of the Senate as members of the PDP Board of Trustees. These are people, some have been governors, whether civil or military, before attaining those positions. So if we would have to develop the kind of temperament, let me use that word, that will be able to balance these interests. And for now, I don't know, tomorrow, for now, this appears to be the best he might get or could get is another opportunity, if they agree, to let him have a hand in who should succeed, Ayu should. The decision be taken that Ayu should go. That's the best. But for him, being national chairman, that would be a long shot.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, John Alechino. Thank you for your report. All right, moving on, let's talk about security threats. And Jigawa government closes schools abruptly. Jigawa state government has ordered the closure of schools across the state. Commissioner for the Education in the state, Dr. Lawan Yusuf, who confirmed the development to newsmen in Duse, cited security threats as reason behind the closure. Yusuf said that the schools were closed yesterday after the state received intelligence reports about possible attacks on schools across the country, particularly in border states. Some of the schools report that students, including those in boarding schools were released to go home. And among the schools visited included Duse Model International School, Government Commercial Secondary School, Duse Capital School, and Nuhu Mohammed Sanusi's Government Day Secondary School. And however, the students were, who were still taking exams were told to go home. A development that caused apprehension among residents of Duse, the Jigawa capital, and it's just a very sad story to see that. These students are, writing their exams and had to go home because of security threats. We hope that the government will be able to do something about the level of insecurity going on across the state. All right, let's take a look at Mr. and Mrs. before we go. Mrs. seems to be speaking. She says, darling, food is ready. It's your favorite with assorted meats. And Mr. says, last time you prepared this type of meal, I gave you 150,000 naira without asking after eating the food. I gave you 150,000. Of course, there's this saying that they say food is the way to a man's heart. And she served him food and he gave her money. And every woman likes money. All right, thank you so much, guys. This is all we can take on the morning show this morning. Remember that you can equally like, share, and subscribe on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. Also, you can go to our website, www.vanguardnga.com, to find out more. I am Precious Chukudi, and make sure you have a fantastic day. Bye.